Okay, I'm going to go through the process of ordering a board from JLCPCB based on this design that I've created in Diptrace. So let's, first of all, the first thing I want to do is just double check that everything's okay here. I'll check net connectivity, make sure nothing is disconnected. A lot of times that'll happen because you've forgotten to update the ground pour maybe. So we'll check that. And then I'll also check design rules, and that's says no errors found, and that's based on the design rules that are set up here. I think these might be the defaults in Diptrace, but they pretty much match what the requirements are for JLC. So this is basically information that comes from the fab that tells what they're capable of producing. So this matches the rules. It shouldn't complain on the JLC end. So the next thing I have to do is export the Gerber files. So I'll export Gerber and just say export all. Now it says use design origin here, and it looks like the origin is here for some reason. I don't know that it really matters, but I will go to edit or view, define origin by mouse pointer, and I'll just click on this upper left corner. And then I think I right click and that kind of sticks it. So let me try that again. I'll go to export Gerber, export all, and I want to save it as a zip file with the Gerber and the drill files. So this basically is everything about the traces on the board, but also the holes that need to be drilled. And that's it. It doesn't tell you it was successful or anything. You just have to hit close. So let me go back to JLC, and I will, instead of, starting to put in information here about the dimensions or anything, it should all come from the Gerber file. I could either do it here or hit order now, and then add Gerber file and choose the one that I just made. This takes a little while as it actually unzips the file and calculates some of the stuff like the dimensions, for example. The base material is just FR4, which is a normal kind of circuit board. Here's what the board looks like, top side, bottom side. Let's put the dimensions in, which look correct, probably. It's a different number than I saw last time, but I think it's okay. PCB quantity is 5, that's the minimum. And then really, there's a bunch of different choices here. Some of them increase the price, sometimes a lot. If I make it a 2 millimeter thickness of the board, then it'll be about 4 times as much money. Same with choosing things like gold plating instead of the cheap lead solder kind of surface. I always choose lead free because we don't need more lead in the world. And that doesn't really change the price much. Changing the PCB color or silk screen. Sometimes there's an option for silk screen when you choose different solder mask color. All those things cost more money. In this case, I just want to make it. I don't care what it looks like necessarily. I am going to confirm the production file and choose do not confirm automatically. That means when they tell me it's ready, I need to look at it and sign off on it within 2 days or they will cancel the order. They always put an order number on the board. You can specify where it goes by putting that in the design in Diptrace. It looks like they also have a barcode option now, which is kind of fun. It's the same thing. You can specify where it goes on the board. In this case, I'll just give it some random prefix and remove their prefix. So that's what it'll look like. That's the data that's stored in there. I'll do QR code. And you can say what the size is. I don't really care. In fact, the smaller the better. It's just going to be out of the way and I'm never going to really care about it. If you care about where it goes, you can specify that in the silk screen when you design the board. I'll hit submit here. That doesn't change the price either. That's just something that they have to do. And, the option to place it where you want is an option for you. All the options have these pretty good diagrams or pictures that show you what it looks like. But otherwise, I think I'm okay. Really, the main thing was making sure that I can confirm that. I'd like to do that. Then I'm going to choose PCB assembly, which normally is free, and then you pay for the components, basically. So it's going to be all the components are on the top side of the board. And you can choose to, even though you're making 5 boards, you can say you only want 2 of them to be assembled. In this case, I'm going to just do all 5. The components are cheap. Tooling holes are these holes that have to be created for the robot to place the parts on there. And they're, in this case, if it's an aesthetic decision, you can specify where they're going to be, but otherwise you can just leave it at the default. I don't care. I'm going to do the same thing and confirm this. This says 72 hours. you have to make sure that the assembly looks correct. And then parts selection by customer. I'm going to choose which parts. I don't care about any of these options. I think I'm just going to go ahead and hit next. So this is the top of the board. I think you can also look at the bottom. Looks right. So I'll hit next. And then we need to add a bill of materials, which is all the components that are on the board, and a pick and place file, basically like where all the parts go, their position, their orientation. So I'm going to choose view sample bill of materials file because, and it seems like it's also, it's clicking, it's doing that, and then it also clicks this. So I just hit cancel there. What I want is this file. I'm going to open this file in Excel, and they have, basically their example. We want to look at it to see what kind of information they have, but honestly, it makes the most sense for me to just put the information in here and save it because I've had a problem. It may have just been early days where I made a file that looked just like this and it complained. So it always works when I use theirs. I don't know the JLC part numbers. I can look them up, or I think it's possible to look them up in here. I think honestly, I do want to look them up myself. I have to enable editing here. I think I am going to look them up myself and place the part numbers in here. So this takes longer, and I'm sure there's more streamlined ways to do everything that I'm doing, but I like to take my time and just kind of put the information in manually. If it was a really big board with lots of different components, I might have a different opinion about that. But now what I need is to get this information. So comment seems to be like the name of it, the human readable name maybe. It looks like the value in some cases. We need the reference designator, which is the standard thing. You could look it up on Wikipedia. These C is always a capacitor, R is always a resistor, and so on. The footprint is what kind of footprint it is. Diptrace may have a different name than JLC, so we'll just have to see what happens. But this, obviously like 0603 is the size. So on our board, we used 0402. So we would be able to see that right away. So let's go over to PCB layout in Diptrace and export a bill of materials. And like I said, it's looking for basically a name, the reference designator, and the footprint. So if we can get that information out, we'll be good. We don't need manufacturer. We don't need quantity, name, ref des, and footprint, which we call a pattern in Diptrace. We'll call this footprint. Actually, I should be able to just put the actual names that JLC likes. So this one is called designator, and this one is called comment. So in theory, I should be able to just use this file. I'm going to call this bill of materials.csv and replace the one I had. So let's go back to Excel, and maybe I'll make a new file here. I should be able to just open it, but for whatever reason, Excel doesn't seem to open it properly. It just ignores the separation, the commas or actually the semicolons that separate it. So what I've been doing is just importing from CSV once I have a blank Excel file, and that seems to work. So on the desktop, we've got bill of materials, import that. And it shows me what it's going to look like, and I'll just hit load. So in theory, this should work, right? Like this should actually, I should be able to just send this to Diptrace. To JLC. We don't need that first column. But let's take a look. So there's the 5 capacitors. It shows the name here as just the same as the footprint, but I want to maybe put the what is it, 0.1 UF or 100 nanofarads, same thing. And then this says J1. This must be the connector that's on the board. This connector right here, which we're not going to have them assemble. We can do that later. So I will delete that. These are mounting holes. I don't care about those. So we've really only got 3 components: the shift register, the resistors, and the capacitors. So I will save this. Let's try this. Let's just try, first of all, it'll only work with one sheet. You can't have two sheets or JLC will yell at you. So let's see. I'll put this again on the desktop. Desktop. I will call this JLC bomb. And does it take Excel files? It says it does. So let's try it. So in theory, this should work, even though I didn't do what I normally do, which is work off of their file, which it seems to like better. So let's see. I'll hit add, choose this, open. It has not complained. Great. Okay, so let's look at a sample CPL file. Again, I'll have to hit cancel here because it's trying to open at the same time. Let's look at this. So this looks like this. The reference designator, the position of it, X and Y, which layer it goes on, and the rotation. So we should be able to do the same thing we just did. And I'll go back over to Diptrace, go to File, Export, Pick and Place. So let's do the same thing. Let's look at what JLC is expecting. It's designator, mid-X, mid-Y, layer, rotation. So that's designator. Let's call it the same thing. Designator. Center X. That sounds like mid-X, but let's call it that. Mid-Y. They call the next one layer instead of side. And rotation is rotation. So should be good. If I export this, maybe we'll just be able to use it. So we'll call this pnp.csv. Yes, I want to replace it. I want to try something different here. If I put a comma, let's see if Excel likes it any better instead of a semicolon. So let's go. We don't need the sample bomb anymore. Let's go to File, Open, Browse on the desktop, and CSV files, text files, PNP. Okay, so that works. For whatever reason, opening CSV with semicolons as the delimiter instead of commas, it doesn't really like. But this looks correct. Now this shows it in, it says it's in millimeters. Theirs doesn't say millimeters in the name, so let me just get rid of that. I'm trying to make it as close to their example as possible. Okay. Rotation, it's got the layers, it's got all the parts. I think this should do it. Let's save this as an Excel file. We'll call it JLCPNP. Put it on the desktop as an Excel workbook. Cross our fingers that it likes this just as much as it liked the bill of materials. JLCPNP. Hey, it liked it. Okay, I think it would have complained right there for either of these. So I'm going to hit process and see what happens. Okay, it's saying that the mounting holes won't be placed, and neither will the J1, which is that connector. That's okay. Continue. Okay, so this is, it tried to select some parts for me, and then there's one that it couldn't. Now this actually looks like the right one. SOIC 16 is the package, and that's the part number. So this is a pretty good match for the shift register, so I'll accept that. Now, if something says basic, they're typically cheaper parts. They're plentiful in their inventory, and there's not an extra fee to use them. If it says extended, then you get like an extra charge. Now, I don't think there are any shift registers there that are basic. Components like capacitors and resistors should definitely be in the basic category. If it says extended for one of those, you might want to look up a different part number. So this says 100 nanofarad 0402. This seems fine. That seems like a good match too. Although it says the comment of this part does not match the one provided in your bill of materials. That's okay. This looks right. 16 volt, 100 nanofarads. No problem. This one, on the other hand, it couldn't find, which is kind of weird because it's like the most basic component. So let's just take a look. 0402. Now it shouldn't be extended. Let's find basic only. Okay, this says Right, we may have to do a better search than this. Yeah, this is not even close. So let's look for, these are supposed to be, I believe, 100K. Let's look at one of these. 10K. Okay, so let's look for 10K. The search for parts is not great, so I'm hoping it won't be too hard to do this. But, and also it needs to be 0402. If we look back here at JLC, it shows that at Diptrace, it shows it's the 0402 pattern. That's basically the size, right? 0402 is smaller than 0805. So we want probably one like this, but yeah, that could work right there, actually. 0402. If we look at the stock, it says there are 15 million or so in stock. So that seems like a very popular and common part. It's only 6 cents. Package is 0402, and the value is 10K. This is the part we want. So let's just hit select. Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, that came out to $12 total for 200 of them. Sorry, 12 cents total for 200 of them. So that looks good. I'll hit next here, and it will make an attempt to place all the components. Now, since none of these components, other than the shift registers, have like an orientation to them, we're probably going to get pretty lucky. So, resistors can go one way or the other, and it won't matter. The same with these capacitors. So we do want to make sure that these are correct, and they look like they are, because that's marking pin 1, and so is that silk screen on our board. So there's no reason why the others shouldn't be the same, but I'll take a quick look. So it seems like everything is in the right place. Often if it shows it weird, like something is in the wrong position or something, a human will fix it by the time you get very far. So it's often not worth trying to chase down something like, the part is just totally off over here. There's sometimes not an explanation for it, and it's not something you necessarily did wrong, but they will fix it before going forward. So I'll hit next. So the total is $27. That's $8.50 for the boards, and then setup fee is $8 for assembly. I assume I have some coupons. There's always coupons, but I'm not sure where that happens. I haven't seen anything about coupons yet. So product description we need because of the harmonization code. This HS code is about importation, and it needs to say what it is. I think DIY makes sense for this particular board, so I'll choose that. And then I'll hit save. Okay, shows here twice because one is the PCB and one is the assembly. But this looks right. I will secure checkout. That one. Secure checkout. Now I'm going to go back one. Okay, shipping estimate $30. So the prices jumped up significantly, right? And that's just what it costs to ship it. So I'm going to, I think I'm just going to continue. I might add another board here to make the shipping cost a little better. So, but right now this is kind of it, right? Like, shipping and payment is it, but we got through the whole process technically, and didn't have much trouble. So that's probably all I need to show you. And I think I'm going to go back and see if I can whip together a board that I can add onto this order to save a little money in shipping. But hopefully that helps if you're trying to go through that process from Diptrace to JLC. Good luck.